You learned to read a room before you could read a book. You'd walk through the front door after school and know, in half a second from the sound of a cabinet closing or the weight of a footstep upstairs, exactly what kind of night it was going to be. Nobody taught you that skill on purpose. You built it because you had to. That's not you being too sensitive. That's you growing up as the emotional weather forecaster in your own home. And once you see how deep that training actually went, you won't be able to unread the last 10 years of your life the same way again. Here are 7 signs you grew up with an emotionally immature parent. The first sign, they scan a room for danger before they even sit down in it. Walking into a party, a meeting, even their own living room, part of their brain is already checking faces, tones, the tiny shift in someone's posture before they've said a single word. Their nervous system learned early that calm could turn without warning, so it never fully stood down. Researcher Dr. Stephen Porges calls this a state of hypervigilance, the body staying on alert long after the actual danger is gone. It's not paranoia. It's a smoke detector that was calibrated in a house that used to catch fire, and nobody ever came back to reset it. The second sign, and it's one most people never say out loud, they became the parent in the relationship sometimes before they were even 10 years old, soothing a mother's tears at the kitchen table, managing a father's temper before it reached the car ride home. They learned to carry an adult's emotions on a child's shoulders, and somewhere along the way, stopped noticing they were still supposed to be the one being taken care of. Even now, they're the friend everyone calls at midnight, and almost nobody calls them. Sign 3, they shrink their own needs down to almost nothing, automatically, without deciding to. Wanting something specific feels dangerous, like it might disappoint someone or start something they can't control. So they learn to answer "I don't mind" and whatever's easier long before they learn to answer honestly. It wasn't modesty, it was a survival skill, built in a house where having a need was sometimes treated like having an attitude. The fourth sign lives entirely inside their own head, a running commentary that sounds suspiciously like an old parent's voice, criticizing them before anyone else gets the chance. Dr. Ethan Kross, who studies our inner voice, found that this internal narrator can replay old relationships word for word, decades later, as if the original conversation never actually ended. So they'll finish a whole project and immediately hear the one flaw in it, louder than every part that went right. That voice was installed. It was never actually theirs to begin with. Sign 5, and this one shows up in almost every relationship they've ever had. They brace for people to leave, even the ones who've given them zero reason to think that. A partner goes quiet for a day, and their mind quietly starts building the case for why this is the moment it finally falls apart. Consistency doesn't feel safe yet. It feels like the pause right before the story changes. The sixth sign. They apologize for things that were never their fault, reflexively, before they've even finished thinking the sentence through. Someone else bumps into them, and they're the one who says, "Sorry." Dr. Harriet Lerner's research on apology behavior describes this exact pattern, where over-apologizing becomes a way of trying to keep the peace before conflict even has a chance to start. They learned a long time ago that being the one who's sorry was safer than being the one who's right. And the seventh sign is the quietest one. Underneath all of it, there's a low hum of shame they have never fully been able to name, a sense that something about them, specifically, needed to be smaller, easier, less. Dr. Brené Brown's work on shame describes exactly this feeling, the belief that you are somehow flawed at the root, not just that you made a mistake. It's not true. It was never true. It was just the story a child had to believe to make an unpredictable home make sense. If any of this landed a little too close, that's not a diagnosis. That's just proof you survived something you were never given the tools to survive with. You weren't too much. You were doing the job of an adult with the resources of a kid, and you did it well enough to still be here, still trying, still reading rooms nobody's asked you to read anymore. Tell me in the comments, Which sign hit hardest? And how old were you when you first noticed yourself doing it? If this described you, subscribe. There's more like this here.